What is the best adaptation for every Spider-Man villain in video game? Spider-Man has one of the best rogues gallery in all of comics, but when it comes to games, the spotlight is usually hogged by the likes of Venom, Doc Ock, or the Green Goober, leaving villains like poor Scorpion to become an afterthought.
You're a freak!
So, in this video, I want to take a look at which video game adaptations show off the expansive rogue gallery the best. I'll be judging each character based on design, story characterization, and gameplay. This video is just my opinions, so feel free to comment if you disagree with me. And if you can convince me why TASM 2 Green Goblin is the best, I'll summon the spirit of Stan Lee to give you a pat on the shoulder, because sometimes that's all we need. Without further ado, let's dive on it. Mac Gargan was supposed to be the Spider-Man who was not a menace, according to J. Jonah Jameson, combining his DNA with that of a Scorpion, which gave him super strength, keen senses, and a penchant for blood and violence. Yeah, who would have thought that was a bad idea, JJ? I do think his origin story is pretty interesting, mainly because how involved JJ is. Like, man's hatred of Spider-Man is so bad, he convinced a rando to undergo a DNA rewriting experiment, which bonded him to an exosuit forever. Spider-Man 2000 shows this hate triangle the best. From the moment Spidey swings in, the three of them are at each other's throats.
Spider-Man? I asked for the police and I get this?
We understand exactly what their relationship is quickly and easily. The boss fight itself has a cool gimmick. Scorpion is actively trying to target JJ instead of Spidey, and it's your job as the player to defeat Scorpion before he crushes JJ like a soda can. This puts the player directly into the relationship. But as much as a hater Jameson is, to save him is the Spider-Man thing to do, so you gotta do it. Hey, you can always reload a checkpoint. Even though I'm more of a fan of the animated series design of Scorpion because he kind of reminds me of Fred Durst, I do like the mechanical exosuit in PS1. Yeah, he kind of looks like a Power Rangers villain, but PS1 knew what it was, so it didn't stray away from campier designs. I gotta give the best Scorpion to Spider-Man 2000.
You ruined my life, so now I'll end yours.
Flint Marko is one of Spidey's most sympathetic characters. He's just a single dad who made a couple of bad choices in life, but he's trying to do right by his daughter. How can you be mad at the guy? Alright, he's a giant f***ing sand monster. I think the key to any good Sandman is the scale. He's probably one of the most over-the-top Spidey villains, being able to change form and size. Even though Spider-Man 2 does a great job of humanizing Flint, while also having one of the coolest intros to a video game, I believe Shattered Dimensions represents the Sandman the best. Most games only have sandy cheeks in one or two forms, which is such a disservice to such a malleable character. Shattered Dimensions lets the designers go wild with the character. Sandman gets home field advantage as the fight takes place in an old abandoned mining town covered in sand, which is a great change of pace from the typical streets of New York. Makes the fight feel unfair for Spidey. The battle progressively gets grander in scale, both metaphorically and literally, as you fight Sandman at normal size, then a giant sand monster, and then a motherfucking tornado.
I'll finish you! Kill him now? No! Play with him.
Though it doesn't showcase Flint's personality the best, but this sequence does showcase what the Sandman can really do.
If I were a rich man, all day long I'd biddy biddy bum. If I were a wealthy man.
Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think Doc Ock appears in the most Spidey games, or at least one of the big bads the most. I mean, how could he not? He's such a multifaceted character. In some adaptation, he's the powerhouse enforcer. In others, he's the mastermind pulling the strings. There's so many good Ocks to choose from. Alfred Molina reprises his role in Spider-Man 2, the movie, the video game, who brings the dramatic flair and intensity. PS1 Ock devises a plan to frame Spider-Man to become nightmare fuel. And Shattered Dimensions Ock, who is very popular in Japanese anime. But in the sea of octopi, there is one doctor that rips out my heart. PS4 Otto Octavius is brilliant. Insomniac does such a great job building Otto's relationship with Peter. He's not just a mentor to Peter, but a role model. Someone Peter hopes to be. Even the dramatic irony of knowing what their relationship was going to turn into didn't stop me and countless fans from tearing up in the final battle. The game does such a great job showing Otto's descent into madness, with audio logs and little Easter eggs around the lab. We even get to see the progression of how his iconic arms came to be, resulting in a look that is both unique and familiar. Topped off with a final battle that holds so much emotional weight, PS4 Doc Ock is the whole package. He's cunning, brilliant, and a freaking powerhouse, and honestly, my favorite adaptation of the character in general.
With a wave of my finger and a flick of my dick, one zap from me will kill you quick, so get on your knees to suck and blow, but not right now, I've got to go!
Electro is a villain for me that aged like a fine wine, both in story and costume design. But I think the game in which he hits his stride is Spider-Man Enter Electro. I mean, it helps your notoriety when you are the big bad of a Spidey game. And as I mentioned before, not too many lesser Spidey villains get to be the final boss. It's not surprising that he handles the role of lead villain well. The dude is probably the most godlike of all Spidey villains. He can shoot, manipulate, and become electricity. And with all of New York being a giant battery for him, it's a surprise that Spidey can beat him. Some might say he's not smart enough, which is fair. He's no Doc Ock or Curtis Connors, but in Enter Electro, the dude orchestrates a plan to unionize a group of supervillains to help him steal and construct a device that will make him
Literally?
God. Just like Brown Listerine, this Electro plays no games. He doesn't hesitate to take hostages, he brings statues of samurai to life, and he's voiced by the D. Bradley Baker. He's not some run-of-the-mill thief or angsty older brother looking out for his sister. This man is a stone-cold killer. Seriously, if you haven't played this underrated sequel of Spider-Man 2000, go play it. And if you want to see a Let's Play, please leave a comment below and subscribe. If you're going to do a crime, you gotta do it like my boy Mysterio. Anyone can cause domestic terrorism, but not everyone can make it look fun. Isn't that right, Joker? The best Mysterio needs to have showmanship, a killer costume, and a wild reality-bending sequence. I'm gonna be honest, Marvel Spider-Man 2 Mysterio is a sleeper. The man got clowned on in the first game, so he came back with some saucy drip. On top of that, a pretty cool story about a man trying to overcome his criminal past. And, spoiler alert, motherfucker, aha, you fell for my illusion. If we're going by these bases, the best Mysterio has to be Shattered Dimensions. I mean, look at the mystical swagger. He has this dark warlock motif going, which fits with the theme of a Mysterio who wants to be taken seriously. My favorite design change is the helmet. As iconic as the fishbowl is, it comes with a level of corn. Opting for more of a magical mirror with a silhouette of a smoking skull is such a rad design. This dude isn't running the Ren Fair. This Mysterio is the big bad of the Ren Fair. Not too many Spidey villains can say that. That's because he's a real threat, not just an optional nuisance for Spidey. Ditching parlor trick for actual freaking magic, making him a god. Doesn't stop Spidey from shitting on him though.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
His fight is extravagant as well, especially becoming a god and fighting 4 different Spider-Men in 4 different dimensions at the same time. The final fight is an amalgamation of all the skills you learn throughout the game, and it has 15 phases. If that's not peak showmanship, I don't know what is. The Rhino is such a hard villain to innovate. I mean, there's so little to work with here.
I just like running through walls. I'm sorry?
You see that wall?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna run through.
Unfortunately, this can be detrimental to game design. There's too many times a Rhino boss battle consists of a big brute charging at you, missing you, then getting his head stuck in a wall as you slap his ass around. don't shame him. He's never the star in games, so his characterization never goes beyond dumb brute that Spidey dispatches with relative ease. This is true for most Rhino adaptation except Ultimate Spider-Man, where instead of the man eternally grafted to Rhino skin, he's a freaking mech suit. And not the shitty Paul Giamatti one. This one. This suit is so terrifying it leaves the webhead speechless. He looks like he got pulled from Transformers Beast Wars, and honestly, he looks better than that. Besides the amazing design, the best part of this Rhino is the big twist. And if you haven't played Ultimate Spider-Man, minor spoiler coming up in 3, 2, 1. After you defeat Rhino, it is revealed that the man behind the metal curtains is not a hardened Russian mobster, but your local Geek Squad employee. This caught me so off guard the first time I played it. Having the Rhino, the freaking Rhino, piloted by a small nerd who wants to feel strong is such a great subversion of the character's roots. Just another reason why I love the Ultimate Universe.
Surf the web, surf the web.
This isn't the bank.
What are you, stupid?
In my ranking of the best Venom videos, I gave both PS1 Venom and Ultimate Venom an S rank. If you want to know why, check out that video in the top right corner in the description. But in this video, I gotta pick which Venom is the best. Ultimate does so much to evolve this character and put a spin on the classic Venom story. But I gotta give it to my boy Deron Norris. If you want the most accurate comic to video game adaptation of the character, this is your guy. He's funny, he's crazy, and he loves to hate on the spider.
Parker hates it when I get the drop on him.
I hate it when he gets the drop on me.
Though his boss battle can get a little bit boring and repetitive, the design and vocal performance is more than enough to make up for it.
Tombs? Not Tombs now. I'm what you called me. I'm the Vulture.
I called you a buzzard.
What?
You can't even get the name right.
Adrian Toomes is a spider villain who constantly gets bruised, belittled, and broken. I mean, it's hard to show respect for a grumpy old man in a bird costume. A flying boomer, if you will. I always found it funny that in games like the Raimi trilogy, all the villains get more modernized / realistic redesign, except Vulture, who still looks like he's in Chicken Run. So how do you make the Vulture cool? You give him giant anime blades as wings and a freaking symbiote suit. Spider-Man Web of Shadows is the first time I thought the Vulture was an interesting character. They wrote him as this disgruntled genius who used his talents to mass produce super suits for Kingpin's men. Though there isn't too much dialogue between Vulture and Spidey, the Vulture feels wiser than any other incarnation. Maybe that's because his fashion sense is better? Suit design was awesome as it focused more on the magnetism element that gives him the ability of flight more than, just bird. I think what made this Vulture memorable for me was the actual fight, as the majority of the fight you're in the air high above New York. This is amplified later in the game when he gets the symbiote suit and you have to fight a legion of flying symbiotes and a symbiote Vulture up above a symbiote covered New York. It's such a stunning set piece.
Rhino? Mysterio? Shocker? Scorpion?
Come get some.
Chameleon? Oh my god. All of my greatest foes. And the Chameleon. Oh, come on, that was this.
Though a hard character put in action-packed Spidey games, he does appear in 3 of them. TASM 2, recently Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and the most notable appearance, Spider-Man vs. the Sinister Six, which is a point-and-click adventure game. The game itself is comically bad, and not good by any means, but it has the most involvement with our adaptable friend. As Spidey does some espionage, he is challenged by Chameleon to decrypt a secret code. Once you figure out his secret message, Lord Voldemort reveals himself and straight up threatens Peter by telling him he's gonna hurt MJ, then proceeds to show Pete what a murdered MJ would look like. It's fucking bold, and it shows how cold Chameleon can be, which is very true to his character. Definitely the biggest highlight of that game.
Real spiders liquefy their prey from the inside. You should think about it.
It's not difficult to make a great Carnage. Overall, he's a pretty one-note character, but the game I think showcases what Carnage is all about. It's not the game you're thinking. It's shattered dimensions. Though you don't get a lot of Cletus Cassidy in this version, the actual carnage this Carnage leaves in the game is jaw-dropping. The monster takes down an entire shield base by himself and is straight up a horror movie monster. If you want to learn more about the different Carnages, check out my Carnage tier list, link in the top right and in the description.
After all this, you still...
I still want that ass, yes.
Insomniac's game builds on a long history of Fisk and Spider-Man. In the opening of the game, Pete mentions that he's trying to bring Fisk to justice for the past 8 years, pretty much since he started being Spider-Man. So when Fisk Tower is under siege, it's personal for both characters, which I find so historic. Wilson Fisk has always been the man on top, but this game does an amazing job of showcasing how far his reach is, pulling strings and influencing New York even behind bars. Hell, Fisk even warns Spidey that the city would fall into chaos without him, and that's exactly what happens in game. Even though I prefer the look of Pimp Daddy Fisk with the cane and purple pants, the redesign is great with the black business suit. This guy must have the same tailor as John Wick, cause I've never seen a scratch on that suit. Speaking of no scratches, I always forget what a freaking tank Fisk is. I forget if he has any superhuman powers or just got that dog in him. But leave a comment if you remember why he's so OP in fights. The bar this Kingpin sets is so high with his history with Spider-Man, threat level, and an amazing opening boss fight. I hope he comes back for Spider-Man 3. I gotta say, Shocker looks comfy all the time. He's just like a quilted pillow. Honestly, smart. He needs that extra padding for how frequently he gets bodied by Spider-Man. Usually used as a C-tier villain that Spidey beats up to get information. So hear me out. The best adaptation of the Shocker is from TASM 2. Herman Schultz is a street-level thug who just happened to find a pair of
Seismic harness construction resource, or as I like to call it,
He's not cunning, smart, or powerful enough to be a big-time player. TASM shows this really well just with his costuming, where he's pretty much just wearing street clothes with a ski mask. I honestly like this more than his traditional costume. Not just because he looks less goofy, but the motif, he's just an upgraded goon. I love the characterization in the boss fight, as Shocker thinks he's leveled the playing field with Spider-Man, only to get bodied as always, and once again, Spidey shakes him down for more information. The dude knows his roles and sticks to it. That's alright.
You grow slow in your old age, Sergei. A fate you will not share.
This one is a no-brainer. It's Spider-Man 2 Kraven. It has to be. Based on Kraven from The Last Hunt. This dude wants to die in the most epic way possible and will kill anyone to achieve that. That bad shit mindset makes him one of the toughest Spidey villains and one of the few that actually killed Spider-Man. Well, temporarily of course, but still killed him nonetheless. The thing I admire most about this Kraven is his sheer will to get what he wants and never settle. Not for his country, not his followers, or even his family. He will die a true warrior's death, and that's kind of commendable. Fuck him for killing my boy Rhino though. I think the problem with adapting the Lizard in video games is developers don't always remember that the Lizard has the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing going for him. A lot of the time he's mitigated to just being a ravenous monster. Dr. Connors doesn't take that kindly, as he's one of the smartest people in the Spidey world. TASM showcases both sides of the good doctor in both light and darkness. He helps Peter and Gwen stop Alistair Smythe, but in doing so, he must revert back to the Lizard since Peter's out of commission. I like Kurt Connors, who's aware of his dark side but will sacrifice himself to save others. Gwen has a genuine distrust of him throughout the game, because he killed her dad or whatever, and Peter still respects Connors as a fellow scientist. I don't think any other version of the Lizard in games show this dynamic. Insomniac made the Lizard epic and grand, but it's the small complex details that make this character great.
You're too late, Spider-Man! Weed has been legalized!
For being one of Spidey's greatest... Let me rephrase that. Being Spidey's greatest foe, I've always found it disheartening that we never get a full-fledged Willem Dafoe level Green Goblin in games. I mean, we did get Willem Dafoe in a Spider-Man video game, but to me, this version never had the same impact as the movie. The big G needs to be a villain that hits Peter at his core. In comics and movies, we get these moments, but in games, he sometimes just feels like a defaulted, typical villain. I'm very curious the route Insomniac's going to take, introducing their Goblin, but the one to beat right now is the Green Goblin from Spider-Man the movie, the video game. First of all, majority of the cast came back to do the voice acting for the game, which means Gobby is still voiced by the one and only Willem Dafoe. The audio mixing isn't great in the game, so the level of intensity of the lines delivery isn't great, but I'm not gonna kiss a gift horse on the mouth. The design and gameplay, though, felt it was ripped straight out of the movie. The iconic flight suit with the purple glider is so clean, nostalgic biases aside. The battle's fun, varying between a fight in the air and hand-to-hand combat. The cherry on top of this Goblin is the secret code you can put in to be able to play as the Green Goblin. Well, in the game, you're playing as Harry, who found his dad's Goblin gear, but that makes things confusing, so I'm just gonna ignore it. That being said, it's an absolute blast flying around in the glider and cutting down thugs with the Goblin glider. Now talking about it, this is going to be a hard adaptation to beat, and I hope Insomniac steps up to the plate. Well, there you have the best version of Spidey's Rogues Gallery in video games, in my opinion. I know I didn't include Black Cat. She's more of an anti-villain in my book, so I feel like she deserves her own video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and please leave a like if you enjoyed it. Comment below if you agree with my opinions, or drop your thoughts on which Spidey villains you think are represented the best. Until next time, fair winds and safe travel, mates.